Hello, 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 everyone. We are just waiting for everybody to hop in. Should be working now. Okay. Is it working? Okay. Sounds doing good. Can everybody hear? Okay. Okay, good. So we are just waiting for our other parties to load in, and then we will get this started, you guys. I'm super excited and nervous about this. And for those of you who aren't sure, again, this is just an open adoption story about all of us who are in this arrangement that we've made, and what a beautiful arrangement it's been. Let's see if everybody, I can't see who's all on, but hopefully they'll be loading in soon. And let's see. Okay. As we wait for everybody to kind of get in and get logged and everything, feel free, you guys, to ask questions. There we go. We're adding them in now, you guys. I'm being but it says it's adding. You guys please bear with us. Candy, I'm trying to add you in. It says no answer. I don't. You're pixelated. Maybe turn the Wi-Fi off. Okay. Here we go. Let's try this again. All right.
There we go.
Hello, you guys.
Hi.
Come in.
Okay, great. All right. So everybody will do your introductions of who you are and your role in the production. Get to the question.
Forward a little bit. Hold on, just a second. Can I just pick it up and come forward a little so I can see her better in here? And set it down. Okay, do you see on the camera? Can you go turn it towards me?
Yes.
So high up. I don't know if I can make that any lower.
I
can like.
No, yeah, you can bend it down. There you go. There you go, smart girl. Okay, now I can probably hear you better too.
Right, so we're just going to do an introduction of who everybody is and your role in the open adoption.
Okay, are you starting or us?
You guys start.
Oh, okay. I'm Candy. I'm adopted mom.
I'm Mike. I'm the adopted dad.
Do you want Cassie to introduce real quick?
Yeah.
So you want to come right behind us? Okay, she's coming in. Come right behind me, Daddy. You can get in the middle right here. I tried to leave a small gap for you. Okay, you're live now. You can tell who you are.
Hi, I'm Cassie.
Okay, that's awesome. And I'm Birth Mom. And you guys, we're just going to ask that you guys bear with us. This is not coached or prepared. And anyway, we're just being raw and open with you guys. With that being said, let's get into the questions. So, starting with the beginning. Oh, if Cassie, if you are going to stick around or however y'all,
Do you want her to sit off to the side or do you want her to stay in?
either way.
Okay, we'll call you in. I might have to have you turn off the AC because our AC, we're out in our sunroom, which is a different air unit in the house, and it's very loud. So I'm struggling a little bit to hear you. You may hear Mike repeat what you say to me.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So, would you guys be open to share with us your journey to parenthood?
Oh my gosh, do you have a couple hours? Okay, well, when Mike and I got married in 2005, our entire drive to Texas for our honeymoon, we went out on a cruise out of Galveston, and we had a 10-hour drive. The whole drive was talking about how hard it's going to be to wait because we didn't want to have kids right away, but we really wanted kids. So we made a pact that day to wait at least 2 years. And on the 2-year mark, in 2007, we started actively trying. And that's when I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. That the name has been changed now, but at the time PCOS, and that number one concern is infertility. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be infertile because I was meant to be a mom. Like everything in my whole spirit tells me like I'm here to be a mom and that will be a priority in my life, right? So we hit the 2-year mark and we start trying, and a year goes by and nothing, and 2 years, and then I'm diagnosed with PCOS, and then 3 years, and I think the 8-year mark?
No, 10.
No, 8 years when we started doing infertility. But I didn't really want to do IVF. I would rather have adopted years ago. But for several reasons, we tried just 2 rounds of fertility injections, and I was going into the doctor every 48 hours and having probing to see if my eggs were ready and get my eggs more ready. And we went through a lot. We did get pregnant twice and lost both babies pretty much right away. They never had a heartbeat. They didn't make it past 7 weeks. And then I just told Mike, I was like, I'm done. I've wanted to adopt before we tried this. I'm not going to do this anymore. I want to adopt. And so, November? It was actually Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, it was.
14, that we decided we're going to adopt. And we told our family we're going to pursue adoption. And then we went through a really long, hard road of figuring out all the different options. It's so overwhelming. There's so many different ways to adopt, and we wanted to do the most ethical, moral way that we could. Like, my biggest fear was that somebody who's pregnant and in a vulnerable position might feel coerced by an adoption agency. So we vetted adoption agencies very well. I wanted to know that you offer to help her first before you offer to rehome her baby. Like, that was such a priority for me. And I was having a kind of a struggle finding an adoption agency that was their focus, was helping the mom first, the biological mom. And someone told us, did you know that you can just adopt with a specialized adoption attorney? And I was like, what? And so we found the one that everyone in Tulsa recommended. And I contacted his office, and his wife set us up for a free consultation. And she said, you'll just come out and he's going to talk to you about what to expect. Okay. So we went and met with him, and this was May, I think, of 2017. maybe April, and we met with him and talked to him for over 2 hours. And him and his wife adopted in the 80s in Oklahoma, and said that the adoption system is not designed to support all three of the triad. And the triad is important to me. It's the pyramid with Cassie at the top, you on one side, and me and Mike on the other, supporting her. And that was really important to me, that somebody cared about the whole triad and not just us, or not just her, or not just you. And he really has made, him and his wife are they go to Washington, D.C., and they fight for rights for the birth mom, the adopted child, and the adopted family. And we love that. So we immediately signed up with him, and he said, get your story out there. Tell your story, and someone's going to find it. So that was a Friday or a Thursday. And Saturday morning, he left, and I was like, go somewhere, go find something to do. I'm going to sit down with a little glass of wine, and I'm going to type up our story. And I think for 6 hours, on that one glass of wine, I didn't eat a thing. I typed up our entire story. And by the end of the day, I had set up a blog for the first time in my life and put the story out. And that was late May. And by the middle of June, the beginning of June, a young girl had found our blog and reached out. And I could tell that her issue was only financial. And that was the only reason that she would even consider placing her child. And that was really hard for me, because I was like, I would rather her get help, like from somebody. Well, she did end up finding some financial help and some support system. And so as much as it hurt us, because we were already starting to bond with her and prepare for a boy, like she had sent ultrasound pictures, we had all agreed on the name, like it was gonna happen. And he was due November 10th, and on I think July 26th or 25th is when she chose to go ahead and keep her baby. And as happy as we were for her, of course we were also devastated. And then July 27th is when your mom found our story and called me or emailed me. So, and you know all that part.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, she read out you guys' story, and it's very beautiful and moving. And so also, what was it like learning that our situation was gonna be starting up? Like, was it, you know, were you like happy, or were you kind of concerned because of what happened previously, or?
So like, how did we feel about when we met, like when we connected with you? Terrified. I probably cried for 3 days. I got very physically sick. I think all the stress broke when I first connected with you guys, because some part of me could tell this is it. And I knew that with your circumstances, this isn't a situation that you were just considering, like you already knew this was the plan for you. And so I felt very good with it. And then that made me, like, all the stress in my body started to melt away into now a fear. A fear that something is going to happen. I don't know what. My head went all over the place. But that was July 27th, I think. And then, she was born October 25th. So I had all those months of having to learn how to trust and having to learn to see both sides of everything and make sure that I'm being compassionate to you, and make sure that, because every time there would be any conversation with you, I would feel my side of it first, and then I would have to take time to process it as if I were you. So I could make sure that I was doing what's best for you as well. So I felt like I was having to live in both worlds at the same time, and it definitely took like a little bit of a mental toll.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And how about for you, Mike?
I was more kind of go with the flow. I was more concerned about Candy, because I I was the one that wasn't completely on board with adoption because I wanted to keep trying. Because in my mind, I felt that I couldn't love a child that her and I didn't create, and that was my biggest fear.
That's actually the number one reason that men choose not to adopt, is because they don't think they'll love someone else's baby enough.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that we were over at her brother's house or for Thanksgiving, I believe. And I was playing with my little nephew. He couldn't have been no older than maybe 2.5. And we were just having a great time on the couch. I was just kind of tossing him around and tickling him and stuff like that. And I looked over at Candy. She just had this smile on her face, and I nodded to her. I said, "Yeah, I believe I'm ready to start that journey." And there was a lot of information. Candy pretty much did all the heavy lifting.
He immediately got a second job.
Yeah, and I found a friend of mine had told me about a part-time job that I could start at immediately to, start saving money for, attorney fees and, adoption fees and whatever route we decided to take to get to that ultimate goal. I was prepared to do, and here we are 8 years later, and it was one of the best, if not the best, decision I've made, other than marrying her.
He was scared up until the second he first saw Cassie, and he just kept thinking that he would always know, I love this baby, but she's not mine. And as soon as he walked into your hospital room and he saw Cassie was in his arms, I could tell his face completely changed. He has loved her fiercely and as if we gave birth to her. Like, there's been a very strong bond between the two of them that he was worried he wouldn't be able to have.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, and then so whenever the meeting process started, whenever we all met together, what was your initial thoughts? Like, were you, and I just want to say, like, for everybody, it was interesting that we all had like a similar tattoo, which I thought was, signs and synchronicities of the anchor. But what was your guys' initial thoughts of meeting?
When we the day that we came to Oklahoma City and met you, I first of all, my very first, because I saw you, walking into the restaurant, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And then I, of course, saw your stomach, and I was like, that might end up being our baby in there. I could not comprehend. I think what I did was every emotion and every thought that I was having from the time we first had a conversation to the time that Cassie was in my arms, I think I put them all okay, let's compartmentalize. Let's set this aside and this aside. And then when she was born and I was alone with her for the first time, it was like everything I felt was coming out of my body. It was almost like I held my breath for 4 months. And then, so I had to kind of numb or put aside emotional feelings so that I could stay focused, because there was a lot to do as far as applications and appointments, and we had to go through so much red tape and hoops and all these barriers to get through to get this done correctly and ethically and morally. And so I was trying not to have emotion. But then once she was here, it was like all that emotion was there finally. And it was a lot of emotion from one extreme to the other. I don't think anyone can understand what bittersweet really means than the moment that somebody else hands their baby to you. Because that immediately fueled over 10 years of emotional hell that we had been in, and every little bit of pain that had happened over those years, every thought I had that was, I'm not going to be a mom. I can't believe I'm not going to be a mom. It all stopped, and it was just I was breathing for the first time. But then at the same time, I'm looking at you, in the hospital bed, and you just went through, physical trauma to your body and emotional side of it. And here I am getting to finally heal, but it's like the start of something that's probably going to be painful. And so that was the weirdest. Like, I couldn't believe how happy and both sad I felt at the same time. That was very unexpected, but I think it's really normal for birth moms and adoptive moms to feel each other. You're connected in a way that nobody will ever be connected to you. And you share a daughter.
That's so true. And for you, Mike?
I was nervous. I normally when I'm nervous, I just stay real quiet and I just kind of sat back and just listened, let kind of Candy take the reins, and because for me, I mean, it was something that I wanted, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to come off as not interested. Because I very much was, but this was something that had happened to us previously, and I don't want to say we were at that point, but we were close, and then she decided that, hey, I've got family that are going to help me, so, we're going to decide to keep a child, which, hey, that's awesome. I mean, we would want that for you.
She's actually doing well, too. I've checked in on her a few times and saw the little boy that almost was ours, and she's doing well. So I'm very happy that she made that decision. And I think maybe the one time Cassie has cried about adoption conversation is not that long ago. I told her, like, I would do every round of infertility that failed, every miscarriage, and the adoption that failed all again 100 times because it brought me to you every time. Like, and you got pretty teary-eyed with that, huh? Yeah. I think all the pain is worth it. She has an interesting perspective from her own. She came up with on her own about her adoption story that she'll definitely need to tell.
Hey.
What?
And you were saying, Mike?
Okay.
No, you're fine. Like I said, I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I just kind of went in there open-minded. I tried to be like, okay, well, they emailed Candy, and here we are. We're meeting you and your mom, and I'm like, okay, and it's going well. But I don't want to get my hopes up because anything can change. And after dinner and a great conversation and getting to meet you guys, and when we left, I told Candy that I feel really good about this. I certainly hope she chooses us. It's ultimately her decision, and we'll just kind of wait and see because that's all we really could do. And I was excited about the meeting, yet nervous because, like I said, I mean this is the second time, and but I'm glad it all worked out. And at first I was like, well, if she does choose us, I wanted to keep it closed. I'm not gonna lie, I did. But after
talk about that.
After her and I had talked, because Candy didn't believe it would be fair for Cassie not to know her family. And I was like, well, yeah, I get that, but she's ours. I was being selfish at the time. And
we both started off that way.
Yeah.
When we went to what DHS calls adoption parties, which is an absolute it's the most depressing I've ever felt in my life. They do them out of town, so we drove an hour and a half, and it's a gymnasium that they set up like a carnival, and it's every child there is up for adoption. And so you just kind of walk around and you're interviewing children that don't have parents, and you're like, hey, what do you think about us? Like, you're supposed to present yourself, and the older kids are trained very well to sell themselves. And it is so devastating to walk away from there and know that wasn't the journey for us. Because I was like, is something wrong with me? Why I want to take all those kids home, but I know that's not my journey. And so that was something we had to get over. But I remember on the way back, I thought if we're going to adopt private, which is what we did with you, it's private domestic adoption. That's our child. That child is not going to know anything about their birth family because we fought too hard to get two parents to have to share it with somebody else, right? That was how we both thought, okay, we're being smart. We're being smart. And I'm glad that it took us a few years to journey through the adoption because it gave me time. I joined every adoption group I could. I listened to people who were adopted. So I listened to adoptees. I listened to adopted mothers, biological fathers. I watched videos. I just completely immersed myself into the world of adoption because when I realized that maybe closed adoption might be selfish on our part. I can understand a closed adoption if the biological family is dangerous, but if it's possible to be open, you should definitely be open with it. Because Cassie will never have to wonder, who is my mom? Why did she not teach me? Like she knows. She knows that your choice was made out of love for her. She knows our choices were all made from love, and she's never going to have to wonder what you look like, what her siblings look like. Like she's always going to know you as just part of her family. And I think all of us giving that to her is the best thing we could have ever done for her. And I hear adoptive children, adoptees, that is the biggest thing that they missed out on is I think it would have been fair if I would have known who my biological family was. Like, because then they wonder for the rest of their life, and I didn't want her to deal with that. So we definitely, and when I remember when you and I talked on the phone on FaceTime, and I was showing you what the nursery looked like, because we had already had the nursery ready for 2 years. It had been sitting there ready long before, and it had the Cassiopeia on it, which is what she ended up being named after. We didn't know that was going to happen. It's like all these little divine things kept happening that kept leading us closer to you and closer to where our journey was supposed to take us. And my whole house was art that was like, trust your journey, trust the process, because I kept having to stay on track and just keep following the next step to get us to where we're supposed to go and lead us to her. But I definitely encourage anybody who is interested in adoption to first of all make sure that they're doing it in the most ethical way and the most supportive way for the birth family and the child, but to also be very open-minded to open adoption because it will be so much better in the end than closed. And I think most people start off wanting it to be closed.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say, for those of you who didn't know, so whenever we were looking into you guys, it was very important to me to pick a interracial relationship the way that it is because I would want her to have a family that was like her,
Yeah.
and how I was raised, to have parents like that. I think it was important for her to have that. And whenever we met, I just love it really seemed like y'all was gonna really. I love that. I had love the excitement, and you weren't judging to me or any of that. You were trying to be understanding and also
Yeah. We're trying to hear everything you're saying. It's definitely cutting off a lot, though.
Oh dang!
Your voice sounds kind of pixelated.
Oh, in the comment section, is that happening to you guys too?
I can't read it.
It says, it says 10 stars to show you. Oh, that's not even a comment.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I think you have to touch the comment box, but we can't reach my phone.
Okay, yeah. So it's. I think it's on that side, but I'll just hold the camera up. How about now? Hold on.
It's kind of in and out.
Okay. Dang. Jeez.
No, I mean,
It's
But anyway,
yeah.
I was definitely, appreciative of the fact that. Okay, awesome. Glad. Thank you guys. But yeah, I was definitely appreciative of the fact that you guys had so much love and there was such a openness with you guys, and it didn't come across judgy or possessive or anything like that. And also, you guys weren't, asking for outrageous things. You were allowing me to take
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
I really did appreciate that. So let's look into the next one. Um, so what was your main fear for like going into the open adoption? The main thing with me specifically.
With you specifically,
You could be
I think
honest.
I think the only fears I've had since Cassie's been born are fears that I would have had with anybody. I don't think there are any that are specifically you, but I definitely would look at her beautiful face and this perfect baby, and I'd be like, it makes perfect sense. If I was the biological mom, I would break into their house at night and take her back. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what if she tries to do that? And even though, I knew that was not rational and that doesn't happen, that's not a thing that really happens, my brain, I was sleep deprived from, having a newborn. But I definitely was, there were times that I think my brain would get a little extra tired and I'd be like, she's going to come here and take her back. Oh my gosh. And I think from the time Cassie was born, it was like when she was born, I took a big breath and like finally released and exhaled my breath. And then I held it again all the way until the adoption was finalized. Because the year that we adopted Cassie is the same year that in our same state, there was a adopted family that the biological family came back and was in court battling to get the 5-year-old back in their custody.
Oh yeah.
And I was like trying not to pay attention to that. I was like, this is a very rare situation. I don't need to stress about this. But I did start developing anxiety that something's going to change with you and you're going to want her back. And we have a very good friend who she placed her child for adoption when she was a teenager. And I told her my fear. I said, have you ever thought about sneaking in and taking him back? And she was like, absolutely not. I knew 100% I was never going to try to take him and that I made the right decision, and I've never felt any kind of desire to do that. But his adoptive mother has cried to her about how she has a hard time trusting her because why wouldn't she want her kid back?
Right.
So I guess it's a normal adoptive mom fear, even though it's irrational. But that is the only fear I ever had, was that somehow she's gonna get taken from us for whatever reason, whether it's you or whether somebody's gonna find her address who would like to have her and come get her.
I rebuke them.
No, it won't. It won't be able to happen.
Amen.
But the fear of the attempt of it happening is in my mind sometimes.
And for you, Mike?
I mean, I'd say the same. It was because it was kind of surreal. Like, okay, I had to be honest with you, when she was born, and we left the hospital a day later.
2 days.
2 days later, I remember driving home and it was cold, right? And we had to turn the heat on, and I had to go get a new filter for our HVAC unit. And long story short, I ended up having a mental breakdown because, like, it all kind of hit me all at once. Everything that happened, And I was at Dollar General over by our house, and Candy was getting worried. She called me because I was literally at Dollar General for 45 minutes. They didn't have the size that we needed, so I was just kind of wandering around aimlessly. And she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And I just broke down. I said, I can't find this filter. We need this filter,
He had a panic attack.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
A panic attack at Dollar General.
At Dollar General.
30 minutes after we brought her home.
Yeah. And I just couldn't believe what was going on. Like we left the hospital, I may have drove 50 miles an hour from the hospital to our house. And I didn't really have a fear, of you or anyone else. I just was like, okay, this is happening, in real time. And I wasn't really sure what to do. And I'm pretty sure whether you're adoptive parent or, the biological parent, as soon as you bring that child home, it's like, okay, well, there's no nurses, there's no doctors, there's no bell I can ring to help me with a situation that I have no idea how to handle. And eventually, we figured it out. And, 8 years later, I think we're doing pretty good. But as far as you in general, for me, there wasn't a fear, there wasn't a fear. And I was more worried about Candy because, she had that fear, it was prevalent. And I tried to do the best I could to, let her know that, hey, this is, Cassie's ours. We adopted her, with open arms, and, we're on this journey together, best way I could, But of course, I would never downplay how she was feeling, because I'm pretty sure it's real for, any adopted family. Because there is that little voice in the back of your head that's saying, hey, yeah, it's all well and dandy, but until it's finalized through the courts, the adoptive mother or adoptive parents can be like, hey, we decided that we do want our child back. The biological parents can be like, well, hey, I think we want.
But that's also irrational because technically they can't. Like, because she signed the parental right release, and then she signed temporary custody to us. Once the TPR is signed, she can't. I mean, it would be almost impossible for her to change her mind after that. But that was still, I kept having to remind myself.
Yeah, no, but that's a very real thing that, you do as a, biological, you do have thoughts of like, what if they're abusing my child? What if they're not who they say they are? What if, a million different things that you think of, and as time passes, if you get in a better place in life, you think of those same things, Um, but yeah, I think my biggest fear was just abuse. Like I just didn't want her to be abused. So yeah, that's legit. And then
She said,
amen.
We don't even spank, and she's an amazing kid. She is smart and funny and kind. She's a great friend. She's respectful. She has great manners. And we've never spanked either. I don't know how we got lucky to not have to do that, but no need for it here.
Amen. Okay. And then so as far as the birthing experience goes, how did that happen for you guys on your side?
When you gave birth?
Yeah, like from the call, like, hey, it's happening, I'm at the hospital, how was the process?
Well, so Kira, birth grandma, texted me and said it might be today, and I was at work, and it just felt, this isn't real. Like, my brain couldn't comprehend that this is real. So I think I sat at my desk for 15 minutes, like, kind of stunned. And then I was like, oh my gosh, Mike is working, 3 hours away?
I was an hour and a half away from our house.
But 3 hours away from where you were.
Yeah.
So, and she had said, we're on our way to the hospital now. I'll text you if they're going to admit her and if it's happening. And I was like, okay. I spoke at the time. I think from the time she left the house to the time you got to the hospital, I went through a pack of cigarettes. I do not smoke anymore. I quit shortly after Cassie was born. Not a single craving. It's been amazing. But I smoked a whole pack of cigarettes in like 40 minutes. And then I realized Mike's not going to get here in time to take me. And if you remember, you had said that the one big decision you wanted to have is what happens at the hospital. And you said you wanted me in the room and you wanted her handed, well, you didn't even know if it was a girl or a boy, but you wanted the baby put to me immediately, not you, because you were concerned about bonding. And so when I found out it is go time, I didn't have my bag packed because we originally thought it was going to be early November. So I didn't have my go bag ready. Mike was in another state. He was in a whole different state. And my mom is a hairstylist who was at the beginning of a haircut. She had already started cutting someone's hair. And my dad was out of town as well. He was actually in the town that you were in, working a very long Thunder basketball game. So he was going to be there already anyway. So I'm like, you can't come get me. I am not going to be able to drive myself. I am just panicking right now. And so your mom told us which hospital. I put it in the GPS, and there's 2 hospitals by that name in the same city. And we went to the other one. We passed right by the one you were in and ended up at the other one.
Oh my gosh.
And as we were at the other one, she texted me and said, the baby's here, and then height and weight. And then she said, do you want to know the gender? And I was probably just screaming. I don't even know what I was doing. I don't remember. But I remember I said, yes, what's the gender? And she said, it's a girl. And I think I punched my mom in the face. I was like, it's a girl! And just hit her. And she was driving my car, flying down the highway, trying to get to the hospital. Because I remember you said that you felt I should hold her first, hold the baby first. And I was like, Mom, we have to get there, we have to get there. Just speed, just speed. And I'm not a speeder. I've never had a ticket in my life. I don't speed. But I was like, get us there. Like, if she holds the baby first, I'm going to have to lose the baby because I'm not going to fight you. She's your baby. But I was just like, she knew it was a risk if she holds the baby. So we got there, and I remember my mom didn't even have the car all the way parked, and I was already running. And I ran in the doors, busted them open. I've never been able, not one time, to tell this part of the story without bawling. So I remember busting open the doors to the hospital and the wing that you were in. I asked what room you were in, and I don't think your mom was able to text me yet. She was busy helping you. And so I asked the front desk, I was like, where's Cherie? What room is Cherie in? And they were like, okay, let me look. And the lady's just typing, and I'm like, oh my God, where is she? And I was just like, and I walked in the room because my brain kept saying, you lost the baby, you lost the baby. She's going to have the baby now. It's her baby now. And I walked into the room, and the doctor was in there with the nurse doing some vitals. And she said, you must be the mom. And I lost it. I couldn't believe that you, in this time, this experience that you're going through, had spent your time, the little bit of time you had with her, talking about me. And they said, she's been talking about you since the baby was born. And she's been so excited for you to get here. And I walked in, and you were feeding her with the little hospital bottle or formula. And I was just like, I want the baby in my hands so bad, but I'm not going to stop your time. So I just remember sitting next to you and talking to you and talking about, I first wanted to know how you were. Before I was even going to try to hold Cassie, I was just like, are you okay? Are you okay? How are you feeling physically? How are you feeling mentally? Like, can I get you anything? And you were like, no, I'm good. Here you go. And just put her in my arms. And my mom took a picture of me holding her with the clock in the background. So she was born at 2:55, and I think it was like 4:18 when I finally got her in my arms. And my face is just destroyed. And my mom was, we posted that picture once we announced that she was here a couple days later. And out of respect for you, we didn't tell anybody until the TPR was signed. Because I wanted to make sure that you were for sure, okay, this is what you wanted. And so nobody knew yet that we had her, and nobody had seen pictures of her except the people who were at the hospital. And when we told everybody, the baby's here, here's pictures, and we've shared. My Facebook is very tight. I only have 200 friends. I know every one of them very well, and the only people I've added since Cassie's been alive are people teachers that she uses at her homeschool academy, and other parents that are playdate friends. Other than that, I don't have very many men on there. I don't have people I don't know personally on there. I don't have any of your people except for your mom on there. And I'm like so super tight with her on social media. And when I posted the picture of me holding her for the first time, people were like, oh, you're so happy. But I was happy, but my tears were devastation for you. Because I could not fathom what it would feel like to have to make that decision. And I also was completely in awe of you that you were able to make that decision and follow through on it, because you're a better person than me. I don't know that I would have. I think I would have bailed on that decision as soon as the baby was in my arms. So I tell people that story all the time, and that you're one of the most badass people I've ever known to have made that decision and stayed with it, because I know that had to be hard.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But my story on my side. So I thought it was Braxton Hicks. That's like you said, we were waiting for November. I get to the hospital, check, say we see her head, and I'm like, no, but you can't see her head right now. First off, I'm a C-section. I'm planned for C-section. Like
Yeah.
what? So whenever all that happens, it's just so surreal. And then, all I was thinking is, I wanted you guys to be there to get her and have that experience, because I was just so emotional. I was like, okay, I prepped for this. I watched Juno, ready, and I think whenever I had her at first, all I could think about was how amazing blessed she was going to be to have a not broken family.
Yeah.
And that was what was kind of getting me through that moment, was that she was going to have a mother and a father married, who've been prepping for her, who are ready for her. And it did take a lot of pressure off, because I was not in that experience. And the best thing that I could possibly do was to give her that experience. And so my feeling is that that's what I was thinking, and I was just like, oh yeah, well, here you go. But no. But I did sign myself out of the hospital like that night, I think.
I think the next morning, I think.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah. Because I was like emotionally done. I was like, I'll heal at home. I'm good. Let people deal with this how I know. Beautiful. And then if you could speak to yourself that same day, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, somebody said to pick your phone up again.
Oh, okay.
I would tell myself to let myself feel it more. I felt it, when you were done feeding her and put her in my arms. Of course, I felt everything then. But I think I also kept telling myself, like, tone it down. Don't get attached. Don't, wait until TPR is signed to let yourself be happy. I would have embraced how I really was feeling and not tried to hide from it, I think.
And you, Mike?
I'm not really sure. Because I was 3 hours away, so by the time I had got to the hospital, Candy was in the room with Cassie. Cassie was in the
little bassinet.
Thing, and I just pulled up a chair and just started talking to her like we're talking now. And I don't know. I didn't really have any reservations. I was just like, hey, she's here, and away we go. I don't know. just was just in the moment, just taking it all in best way I knew how, because obviously this is something that we've never, been through before. So just kind of going with the motion. And I don't think I would, on my side, I don't think I would really change anything,
Same, yeah.
because having that,
You would have got there sooner.
yeah,
And I would have gone to the right hospital first.
yeah. And
I don't regret that though. As much as I wanted to be in the room, I think it was pretty powerful that you and your mom did that together and had that experience before she was passed to us. I think that was how it was supposed to be, as much as I would have loved to have been in there.
Okay. And then what were you guys thinking or feeling about the opposite party?
About you? Or about each other?
Yeah, about me. And I'll share too.
I mean, what I've said, I was very worried about you. I just wanted to make sure you were okay, and I didn't know how to do that because I didn't know where the line was. So I didn't want to overstep. I remember, making sure the day that Cassie was born, you were obviously wiped out because you had just been through, I know that cesarean section is trauma on your body no matter what, and I'm sure that you were emotionally exhausted, and I know that you had 2 other kids to take care of, and so I tried my best to help with that while also enjoying my moments with her. And so I remember they separated our room, which I felt was probably better for you because you probably could use the break in the alone space for a little bit, but I also didn't want to feel like we were abandoning you. And so I remember going back and forth from room to room, but I just was very worried about you because you had just done something that I don't think I was strong enough to have ever done. And I was very worried.
And it was likewise for me, ironically. Once you guys got her to the room, I was wondering, would you still want to go forward? Because you guys could back out too.
Really?
You guys could back out too. So I was like,
I guess, people do. They do.
right. So I was just wanting to make sure that, you guys were really in it, that I was in it, and she would be good regardless, So that was interesting.
There is a organization called the Second Chance Adoptions, and it's people who adopted and decided they didn't like adoption. And then that baby goes into an orphanage or toddler. And I have thought there not a single second since she's been alive have I questioned if we did the right thing or if she was supposed to be for us. And she tells me all the time. Okay, you go to the bathroom. She tells us all the time. She said she doesn't know if she'll feel like telling her perspective all the way or not, but she probably will. But she tells people all the time that she picked you and then picked us from the stars. She's like, I was in the stars. I am right now. She's like, why don't you tell it? I'm like, I am. She tells people that she picked you to carry her and us to be her mom. And she's like, I remember that. And I don't know if that's how valid that is, but she does. And I trust her. She is a very spiritual child. She's very tied to, I swear she was a past life child. Your mom also, I sent your mom a video a long time ago before she could speak clearly, and the way she was talking was not normal toddler babbling, and your mom immediately recognized it as light language. So I started researching light language, and it was so crystal clear, some kind of light language, that I feel like I was being able to find other people who were deciphering what they said. I'm like, that's what Cassie's saying. And I don't know much about that, but Cassie is a spiritual little being. She is a divine little thing. And she's taught me as much as I think I've taught her as her homeschool mom. But she likes telling her story, but she said she might be nervous to say it here. But we'll see how she's feeling. She's in the restroom now.
Okay.
Did I answer your question? I don't remember what your question was. Okay.
Yeah. And then would you explain to everybody what the finalization process was for you guys? I know for me, it was, you go to the courthouse and I sign over my rights, and I left a message to Cassie, explaining that, my choice was made through love and for her best interest. And then what was it like on your side?
Like, what all did we have to do for the adoption? A lot of our stuff we had to do was done well before we met you. We had to have our house investigated. We had to do drug tests. We had to do medical. We had to get new doctors to approve us as physically fit. We had to see a therapist to prove that we were mentally fit. His job had to be make sure that he has a strong career. I had a career at the time that I ended up giving up later at a law firm. But they had to investigate every aspect of our lives. They had to come to our home and investigate the whole home. They had to see her room set up before we could get approved. So that's why long before we met you, the room was painted. There was a crib. There were clothes. There was gender neutral clothes, toys. Everything was ready because we didn't know if we were going to end up adopting domestically with you, through a birth mom, or if we were going to adopt through an agency. We had all these options in front of us, and we were just taking the next right step. So we just kept following what we were told. But the home study process, was a couple $1,000s, and they come out and they sit and they study your house and write a report about what your home is like, and they take pictures to show, the DA's office. We had to meet with the DA about our intentions to adopt, and the DA had to approve us. And then once Cassie was born, the DA had to see her in her home. So we had another home study with her here.
And then we also had to go to her office because Cassie couldn't have been 3 or 4 months old. Yeah. And we had to go there. And the lady that took our case, we had to have Cassie there, and she had to watch how Cassie interacted with us.
Yeah, we went through a lot.
Everything, because they were going over us with a fine-tooth comb, because they definitely wanted to make sure.
They went and studied his whole life back to both of us, but they went all the way back to his home life as a child. Yep. They looked through records in every state he lived in to see if there was any kind of situations, any jail time. Did he get abused as a child? Did I get abused as a child? We had to have blood work done. We had to do a lot. But we were told to do the kind of adoption that we ended up doing, it's going to cost between $35,000 and $50,000. Now, we were comfortable financially, but we didn't have $50,000. And when you're adopting, you could get a phone call in the middle of the night and there's a baby ready for you, And so we had to have the money ready quick because we didn't know what method we were going to be able to use. So while he was working 2 jobs, I was working a full-time job, and every bit of my free time was doing our adoption stuff, like filling out applications and filling out forms and financials. We had to show them a year's financial statements. We had to show them the last 5 years of tax records. It was a lot. And then once she was born, you signed custody temporarily. We signed the custody papers, and then the next thing to do was the home studies with her in the house, and then to meet the DA. And then the attorney had to get a TPR, the termination of parental rights, from the birth father. But that person was not responding, and you have to try to find the birth father. And even though we knew who he was not interested in responding. But we are required to pursue for 6 months. So her adoption could have been finalized a few months after she was born, but because of that decision that he made, it made things prolong until she was almost 9 months when we officially adopted her. And so we went to the courthouse, and we had about 15 people that we were really close to that we invited, and signed everything there and bawled our eyes out. And then once that was done, that was my second time to breathe out.
Right.
And pretty sure I cried for like a week straight that I was actually in the movie A Quiet Place with my cousin.
Oh,
And
yeah.
almost that whole movie is silent. But I knew that all we're waiting on is the DA to approve us to adopt. And so the attorneys had said it should be any day. Well, we were at the movie and it's dead silent in the theater. And I have my phone in my lap and I'm like watching, watching. And then I see it pop up and it says, "You're adopting her." And I screamed in the middle of the theater, "We did her!" Like so loud. And the whole theater was dead silent and it was packed because it was like opening week of A Quiet Place.
Okay.
And I screamed really loud. Probably nobody understood what I said. And then I cried through the rest of the movie loudly while everyone was trying to watch it.
Okay.
But at the courthouse, we signed the last papers. We took them to the court clerk and get them certified, and then it was done. That's all. That's everything.
Okay. And let's see.
Somebody is reacting at me.
Okay, Daisy.
Is it my mom? Rude.
Daisy Fields vest.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how was the adoption explained to Cassie?
We decided originally, of course, like I said earlier, it was going to be closed because I'm her mom. I'm the mom, right? That was my whole attitude. And she's never going to know anything but me. And then, luckily, before she was born, and we had that just open heart experience that made us feel like that's not the right journey. She needs to know. He or she needs to know. So the day she was born, I would tell her story with her in my arms. And a week later, I was rocking her and telling her story. And I've told her story many, 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 many times because one of the things I learned from people who are adopted is they remember the moment they found out. And so they draw a line, and my life was easy and normal. And then I found out and everything changed. And I didn't want that moment for her. I want her to always know her story. So I've told it in age-appropriate ways all of her life. Mm-hmm. So that there's never going to be a time that she'll remember the day she found out. So she's always known.
Amen.
The explanation gets a little bit bigger every time she gets a little bit older. So, age-appropriate explanations and... What, honey? Oh, okay. She's sitting next to me coloring.
Okay. Well, now, if you wouldn't mind, if Cassie does want to come in, then we have questions for her.
You want to come in real quick? She's going to ask you some questions. She's coming from under the table, which is a nonsensical way. Here, can you come around the back?
I'll walk, honey.
She's hopping like a frog.
Okay. Hello.
Oh my gosh, my hip doesn't do that. Okay, here, come here.
Hello.
Speak up so people can hear you, okay?
So, how would you describe family?
Well, it's nice and just like people you can talk freely to and be truthful. And
Can you hear her?
people who
Yeah.
love and care about, and people who keep you safe.
Okay, that's awesome. And what do you like most about the open adoption?
Is that I get to see you, and I know who you are because you're really nice. And yeah, just getting to know you, and just getting to know you, and just getting to just understand who you are.
Okay, and what is the hardest part for you, do you think?
I don't know. I don't think for me, there really isn't.
Amen. Amen. That's
Well,
great.
answer.
Yeah.
Okay, and what is your favorite memory of everybody together?
Everything.
Okay.
I think you talked about when you were playing Jenga with your brother and sisters.
Oh yeah, that was.
She talks about that. She loved playing Jenga with
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Aw,
Yeah.
okay. And so is there anything that, what advice would you give to a child who was being adopted in an open adoption?
What would you want to tell another child who's going through a similar story like yours that's going to be adopted? Would you want to say anything to them?
I have no clue.
I have no clue.
No, okay, that's fine. And is there anything that you would like to share about your story?
It has been really nice to be adopted, and it makes me feel special. And it makes me happy and kind of unique that I'm adopted, and well, I don't know, I'm just happy.
Okay, that's awesome. And are there any questions that you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was really it. We just wanted to hear your side if you wanted to say something.
You want to tell
And,
anything more? No, you're good. Okay. You want to?
well, thank
You
you.
want to tell her?
What do you say?
Thank you.
Thank you too.
I love you.
I love you too.
Bye-bye.
I'm gonna move my leg out
Bye.
of your way.
And then we have like some deeper questions, and then this will be like the last of the series of questions for everybody. So what was the hardest part for you guys, individually and together?
I mean, the hardest thing for me was trusting the process, not like trusting the journey, which is probably why I cluttered my whole house with trust your journey stuff everywhere. Because everything we had tried ended up being a dead end. And I just kept waiting for the rug to get pulled out from under us again. And so trying to trust that I think that this has been the most important experience of my life. Of course, I can't imagine anything being more important than this, but it has changed me more than anything has. It has taught me that what's meant for me is going to be for me, and I don't have to fight against anything. I just have to lean into wherever I feel the next step is on everything in my life. And it was hard for me to trust that at first, but now I do. Like now I'm much more relaxed with stuff, and I wish I would have been more relaxed during the adoption process.
And you, Mike?
I would say just keeping it together physically and emotionally for Candy, because again, I was working so much. She was doing the majority of the heavy lifting, the searching, all the paperwork, all the appointments, and she was doing a lot. There was a lot on her plate, and then also, we had went through it before with the first, how would I describe her, but with the first opportunity to become parents, and we were glad that she had made the decision to keep her child, and she's thriving and everything like that. But just for me to be Candy's rock, to let her know that she can come to me if she's feeling sad, feeling happy, whatever the case may be, because we were in it together, and I didn't want to not be there for her. Like, hey, I get it, but I've got to go to work and this and that, and then once, you know, Cassie came home and, you know, we got adjusted and everything, you know, being there for them for the little bit of time that I had, because I was working 2 jobs at the time, and just making sure they were all right, you know, making sure Candy was all right, anything and everything that I could
Pretty
do
sure I
possibly.
was a walking ball of stress.
Yes.
The whole journey. And he had to come home and like decompress me and like hold me for a minute so I could breathe. It was, I really do think the best way to describe that whole journey was holding my breath and waiting for the rug to get pulled out. And I don't know, it was a lot.
Yeah.
I remember the day that the morning after she was born and the attorneys came to the hospital. They walked in so calm, cool, and collected, and I was like, "Why are you not freaking out?" Like, and he was like, I was telling him like, you know, okay, what's the next step? What do I need to do? He's like, "You be the mom, I'll be the attorney." And I am so grateful he said that, because it gave me permission to shut up and focus on her for the first time. Like, had he not said those words, I think I would have been trying to do his job the whole time. So I think that if anyone who's watching this is looking to be an adoptive parent, like your job is to be the parent and do the steps that you're told. You don't have to try to take over everything and run everything like I was trying to do. I'm so thankful he said that so that I could focus on, because that would have been 9 months before we officially adopted her, that I would have been trying to run everything and be her mom. And I don't think I could have been a good mom if I was trying to be an attorney as well. Yeah.
Okay, so from now to then, is there or were there any regrets?
Any regrets? Yeah, I regret not trusting the process better.
Oh,
You guys, I didn't have reason to not trust you guys, but you may have felt like I wasn't trusting you, but it was that I wasn't trusting the universe. I wasn't trusting that this was going to finally happen for us. And so that probably got projected to you and to your mom. And I just felt like everything that was unfolding, like I had to investigate and make sure that this is where it's supposed to go. And I wish I would have just shut up and relaxed. I stressed myself out much more than necessary over all of it.
right.
And him too, I probably stressed him out too. Girl, sorry, our dog is playing with the other dog.
Okay. And for you, Mike?
You know what, Cherie? Could you repeat the question? I'm trying to.
Regrets.
Regret. I'd say my biggest regret was that we didn't do it sooner, because of how I felt, how I would love someone else's child. I think that would be my biggest regret, because, you know, I love my nephews and would do anything for them at that time. And when we decided to adopt, and they're not my biological kids, you know, they're family, but they're not my biological kids.
I actually had to tell you that. I said, if Spencer and Trevor lost their parents and we became their guardians, you would love those kids like they were your own. You already do love those kids like your own. Why would you not love a child that we adopt as your own?
Yeah, and which is a very valid point, but that would be my biggest regret, is that we didn't start this process a lot sooner, because
had we would have more.
Yeah, you know, because 10 years we were bound and determined to have our own child, and it just wasn't in the. Well, I guess
I would have adopted. I would have adopted day one. I didn't care if the baby came out of me or was given to me. I did not care. I would have adopted to begin with and not gone through any. I wouldn't have even tried to have a baby on my own if he was up for adoption. I would have loved that. I always loved adoption.
But yeah, that would.
He wanted to try the biological route and then the fertility treatments.
But it was taking a toll on her, and I just didn't want to see her getting poked and prodded and all, just going through hell for something that I wanted, you know. And
it wasn't that you didn't want to adopt. It was that you didn't think you'd be good enough. And
Yeah.
that is literally, I saw a study or an article on that for adoptive dads in one of the adoption groups, and that is the number one reason fathers struggle to adopt at first, is they just have convinced themselves they won't be good enough to raise a baby that they didn't biologically participate in,
Yeah.
which isn't accurate.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish you would have trusted the process too.
Okay, so what resources have helped you guys the most?
For all of it,
Hmm.
like everything that has to do with being parents and um, finding the attorney that it was so invested in adoption, that's his number one thing. He was a godsend because he knew exactly what to do. He cared about you as much as he cared about us. He he just made it so much easier for everyone.
Absolutely.
And I could tell right away that he was passionate about it. He was ethical, and finding ethical people in the adoption world is hard. It's very hard.
Yes.
You have to vet the adoption agencies, because I'm not trying to put down adoption agencies, but as far as domestic adoption, a lot of the agencies make a big profit off of it.
Yes.
And so when a birth mom, when a woman who's pregnant comes in and she's worried, what can I do? I don't have money, or I don't think I'll be a good enough mom, or I'm too young. Whatever their reason are, they're like, yeah, that's probably a good reason to place your baby with us, and we'll find a home. Yep, they don't encourage them. Some of them do, but too many of them will encourage that woman in the most vulnerable moment of her life to choose adoption, when really she just needs help. She needs support, and they're not there for support, because supporting her doesn't make them money.
Yes.
And we had met with every single adoption agency in our area. We did I did virtual meetings with adoption agencies in other states. I looked over and studied probably 250 adoption agencies, and out of those, I felt like I trusted the ethics of maybe 3 of them.
Wow.
And it's concerning to me. It became my number one priority over everything else, that whoever helps us with this attorney side of it, with the legal side of it, with this process, cares about the whole triad, and a lot of them don't. And so we got very lucky. I know another attorney here that was our second choice, that our dog is hitting the camera with his tail, her tail. I'm happy to put their contact information in the comments if anybody wants. But I think that is the most important part of this whole process, is finding people that you trust are going to do the right thing and they're not going to manipulate. Because nobody considering adopting out their child every one of them is vulnerable for whatever reason. And there's a million different reasons why they would choose that, but we actually had somebody that found our blog, and she reached out to me, and she was only 6 weeks along, and she said, do you want to adopt my baby, or do you know an agency? And I told her, please don't go to an agency yet. You need to go somewhere where you can find resources first. And she was like, I just want you guys to take the baby. And I ended up kind of mentoring her and helping her find support, and she was able to keep her baby. And that was really hard, because of course I want your baby. But I think if you don't go into adoption with integrity, you are doing a huge disservice to the child that you are going to be adopting. And so that stayed the top priority for me the whole time. Did that answer the question? I don't remember what the question was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And there's like a few more questions, but are there any questions that you guys have at all? Or
I was going to ask you, like, if you had fears, but you kind of already said that. But are there other fears that you had or have now?
I mean, always. I feel like one of my biggest fears would be that you guys would, close out and still choose to,
Oh gosh, no.
you know, um, that would be one of my biggest fears. Um, or, you know, if anything was to happen to either one of you, how that would affect everything, her, you know. Um,
Yeah.
so just things like that.
No, we don't ever have any intentions of closing out. And she knows how to get hold of you guys on her own.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a little late now.
Right. Oh, goodness. Okay. And you, Mike, same? Or,
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much the
okay.
same. I just, again, it was just if the whole process from, then to now, um, I love that we went through it, and I completely agree with what Candy was saying about anyone out there that is pregnant and is unsure if they want to keep their child. Before you even attempt a adoption agency, seek out help. I mean, I understand you're at a vulnerable emotional state, but before you make a forever decision, seek out, some kind of mental help. Ask for help. Anything that can.
If it's just financial reasons,
Yeah.
I think that you can get support and resources. And I think that would be something that can be changed. If your circumstance can't change, then go all in. But
And when you.
I think if you're gonna go speak with like a crisis outreach program, don't say, hey, I think I'm gonna adopt our baby out. Go in and learn about resources first. Because once you tell them, I'm considering placing my baby, that's what you're gonna end up doing because they're gonna push that really hard.
And that's all. And I don't mean to, excuse me, crap on adoption agencies, but I do believe that the majority of them are just concerned about making a profit, which is ridiculous because, there are children in this world, whether they be through the state or private adoption, that need homes. And for you to come in with the mindset that you want to do everything in your power to convince that woman at a very vulnerable state to give up her child so you can make a profit, they
make a big profit.
And you're just, in my opinion, an evil human being, because I could never do something like that and then sleep at night. Adoption, it's a beautiful thing. I think it should be encouraged, if that is the decision the mother makes. And I just wish it was like our situation. It's open. She knows who you are. We know who you are. She'll never have that question as to, who was my birth mom? Did I have any brothers or sisters? Anything like that. My grandparents, anything like that. We want to make sure that she knows all that, so when she gets to that age, she won't have those type of questions. She knows who she is. She knows who her family is. And, she won't ever have to wonder. And it's been a phenomenal process. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Even if you had to be dragged a little.
Even if I had to be dragged a little, and any parent will tell you, being a parent, it's hard. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll do, other than your marriage or your whatever your situation may be with your significant other. But it was a beautiful experience, and I wouldn't really change anything. And it's just, I can't stress enough that if you are pregnant and you're having concerns about keeping your child, seek out the help, get those questions answered before you make a rash decision that you may not be able to take back.
Oh, reaching out to a couple that is waiting to adopt because you're considering adoption is a bad idea. I couldn't believe how many women wanted to talk to me, not to place their baby with me, but to get advice. Like, I think that's silly because my goal is to adopt a child. You're trying to find out if that's what you should do. What if I start manipulating you and convincing you to give me your child? Like, that was so, when when we got the email from your mom, I didn't know anything about her, but I was just like, this email is coming from the biological grandmother. I have to get to know the biological mom because I don't want to find out that the biological mom wanted to keep the baby but was pushed. I had to make sure that it was you, that it was your decision that you were making freely. And I remember having that conversation with you on FaceTime. And I was like, is this your decision? And you were like, this is my decision. And I was like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Have you looked at other options? And you were like, no, this is what I want to do. I was like, okay, I had to be sure that absolutely nothing against the people in your life, but I had already seen women who were vulnerable that were being manipulated to help rehome their babies, and I didn't want that to be you. So I think it's so important to look at things from every angle you can and make sure everybody is on the same page and on board with the process, but also be prepared that a birth mom may have the baby and not be able to do what you did, because I wouldn't have. I would have been selfish and kept my baby, and because I'm not strong like you are. Or I'm strong in a different way, but I don't think I could have done it. I tell Cassie all the time how amazing it was that you knew and that you stayed on your plan, and that's how we ended up with her. But I don't know. Did you have something else to say?
Yeah, I'm just saying.
You just wanted to sit here. She said, "I just want to sit here."
Okay. Well, other than like if you guys had any other questions, then I was probably just gonna kind of tell more on my side, but you guys don't have to be here for that part if you guys have other things to do. Um, or you can be either way.
I do
Or
have
unless you
one
guys have
question.
questions. Okay.
Um, well, not necessarily a question, but maybe something that we haven't discussed is with us being, once we became friends on social media, because we weren't in the beginning, and then we kind of were on Instagram, but I wasn't active on there, and then she was probably 3 before we connected on Facebook. But then I always, every single post that has to do with her, every single one, I'm like, okay, what will this feel like as the birth mom?
Yeah,
Seeing her make this smile, like, she's got a medal at gymnastics and she just got first place in something, and I'm like, is this post going to be too hard for Cherie? I don't know where you are with that, so I try to, when I'll post something I'm really, really, really excited about, something like her being in The Wizard of Oz and how amazing she was at acting in that, and I will downplay how excited I am in case you see it, because I don't want it to hurt you. Is that a valid thing for me to be doing?
I will say I appreciate that you do that, but please don't. You're an immaculate mom and Mike is an immaculate father, and how you choose to raise her and express your family, that's all you guys. I'm just appreciated. I'm appreciative of being able to see that, and I'm always gonna be emotional, whether it's anything. I'm always
Yeah.
gonna have emotions. And I purposely will, sometimes not see more of this or sometimes see more of this depending on how the emotions are.
Yeah.
But don't ever feel like you have to worry about my side. That is something I will always do, you know,
Yeah.
but I do appreciate it.
I definitely worry about a lot of stuff like that. Like when we get to go see Grandma, and I'm like, God, I wish she could be here too, but you're in another state now. And I'm like, okay, don't post too many pictures about this amazing time we're having without her, because I don't want you to feel left out. But I know
No,
you can't get here and we can't get there.
no, I do the same thing on my side, but the way I really have learned to see that is, you know, sh- you guys and are giving her the best experiences, you know, different than what I can give. And by all means, have the best, have the most extravagant. That's really why I picked you guys, because I knew you guys would.
Yeah.
So do that, and be amazing, because you really are. You
Thank
really
you.
are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for picking us.
Yes.
Yes, same. You guys picked me too.
You know what's funny? People tell us all the time they're shocked when they find out that she's adopted. When her class she goes to a homeschool academy, not a standard school, and I'm there. She only goes 2 days a week, and I'm there on Mondays with her. And the kids were talking about their families, and she was like, "I'm adopted," and the kids were like, oh, "How do you look just like your mom and dad?" Like everyone says she looks just like us, but I also every picture of you I see, I'm like, God, there's Cassie's face. There's Cassie's smile. She has Kara's eyebrows, and so do you. And I see
Yeah.
Kara in her. And it's just crazy to me how it does feel like we are all one unit in this, And, but what's really funny is when somebody found out we were adopting a mixed child, they said, "Oh, you're adopting outside your race?" And I was like, "We're adopting exactly our race. What are you talking
Exactly.
about?" And they kind of acted like he doesn't have any business raising a partially white child. I don't have any business raising a partially black. I'm like, he's gonna pick up that part of it, and I'm gonna pick up this part of it, and together we're gonna be amazing. Like, what are you talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. And you
I've
are. You are.
definitely learned a lot about not to start up this conversation, but like microaggressions. When we're out in public, I have to be my head's on a swivel. Because we paid, $150 to get her hair braided, professionally braided, and she had this beautiful braid coming down with the beads on it, and solid braid artist. She's an award-winning braid artist, and this lady just walked up and bing, right on her braid, and it ripped the beads out of her hair, ripped her hair, and the braid fell out. And I'm like, the way people feel entitled to touch my child is so weird to me.
They just pulled on it, and then it partially ripped hair out of my head, and then all of the beads fell out.
It does seem like Caucasian older women feel very entitled to her body, and they will try to touch her hair without permission. And I have to keep my head on a swivel because I have to block people all the time. It's crazy. But that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
No, that is valid. Yeah. I mean, that's valid. Yeah. And that is so different because you are a different race mother, but that's wild. Yeah. You don't really get to hear that side.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you want to say anything else? Nope. Okay. Well, we'll let you tell your story. We'll come off, but we're gonna go watch you in the living room together.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining and for sharing you guys' stories.
Yeah.
All right. We love you.
Love you too.
Hi. Tell the family hi.
I will.
I don't know how to get off of this thing. Do you just?
I'll do it once you guys sign out.
All right.
I can't reach my phone.
Hi.
Well, I think it might be the X there in the corner, sweetheart. The top left corner, right there. You see it? No, right there. In our box. See
Right
the
above
X?
Daddy's head.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. And hit leave.
Sometimes it takes a second. So you guys, that was so awesome to have everybody together and to go through those experiences with you guys and to share that. But I didn't have a third person to ask all the questions that I would have been into. So now I'm gonna kind of go into the opposite side, which was my side of things, where I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that choosing adoption is definitely something that is a hard decision. But if you guys choose to, look into those options and you find somebody, a group of people, or whoever, a community of people that you feel like you can get your questions answered. I think it's so beneficial. So that's really why this video came about. Um, and of course, there's a lot of emotions that's involved with this. Even during that, I swear I almost cried like 7 times. um Hearing their story was so emotional. Because like they said, sometimes you think of your own emotions, and sometimes it's hard to even fathom the opposite side's emotions, you know um but I do find that I get awfully emotional, seeing posts and things like that, because it's like, even though you're so happy that they have this wonderful life, and that the choices that you made to you know go for that adoption worked out, you also have that thought of like, wow, maybe I could have did this, or what if I would have stuck this out, or how would this look different, or how are they looking at me now, or how, every time you think of something, you think like, okay, well, when I'm posting something with me, my husband, and my kids, how is that making her feel, how is that making them feel, and I wonder about Cassie's emotions. Does she feel like left out sometimes? Does she feel happy that, that's just all she knows, so that's normal for her? So not knowing that side, or thinking about Mike's side, like how he may feel about, when I make posts, or how he feels about the situation, or Candy, how she feels about posts and things like that. Is there a comparison? Is there a, oh, I wouldn't do that, or oh, you shouldn't do that, or because we parent very differently. Um, they don't do whoopings and stuff like that. I'm a huge advocate for that. Not abuse, obviously. Hello. But you know yeah, I do believe in that. But I do feel like the emotions that come with all of this is so crazy, and there's never been a moment of regret about my decisions, but there's always been questions, and I'm sure there always will be, right? And there's always been those emotions of you know whenever she looks back, like, oh, is this somebody I can be proud to call a birth mom, or birth birth family on the opposite side, or is this somebody that Candy and Mike can be proud to say that they're involved with, you know, because whenever we first initially got together, I was a totally completely different person, right? And I was going through so many things emotionally, physically, spiritually, you know, whereas now I'm more mature and more delved into myself and into the things that I am meant to do. And I always wonder those things, like, you know, how I'm viewed, or how I'm spoke about, like, oh, you think about that, like, how do they speak about me? Is it like, do you tell them like the good things, or do you tell them the bad? Do you do both? Is it like, do you dread conversations when I come up, or pictures, or posts, or any of that? Or is it, you wonder these things. But one thing that I've learned is that it's okay to take your time in your space, because I think they've always been really open with wanting to, do photos and videos and calls, whereas I have been more reserved and not so not so much communicative in that way. Like, I like having the Facebook posts and being able to see updates, because I do that with my other families. We keep up on social media, and that feels healthy, a healthy distance. You know what I mean? But I don't ever want to dive too deep, because I'm a super emotional person and highly opinionated, as you guys know. So I don't ever want to, like, overstep as well, and also, vice versa. I just know me, and I can only imagine how they think because of how I think. You know what I mean? I have never, this is what Candy said, I have never dreaded talking about you. I love telling people how great you are, dude. Thank you. It's mutual. Yeah, and there's so many different ways that I've even expressed that, whether it's an open adoption or, somebody was like, okay, it's a surrogacy. It felt like that, because whenever I decided to do that open adoption, well, not open adoption, but when I decided to go into adoption, it was like how Cassie said, how she chose me and then she chose them, and how she just knew it was mutual. It was kind of like the moment I knew that I was pregnant, I knew that I would love her and that I would carry her to term and that she would have a wonderful life. But I knew that it would not be with me. Do you know what I mean? And there was no question really about that in my mind. And I was actually wanting a closed adoption. That was what I wanted. But I talked to my mom more about it, and she was like, oh, you should stay open, and so on and so forth. But yeah, I was like, no, I get pretty emotional, like, and and you do, and it's funny because Candy said earlier about, like, do you ever think to, do birth moms ever think to come and, grab the kids? I'm like, no, because there's laws. But if there weren't, I mean, sure, maybe that's a thought that would go through someone's head, Me, I don't ever think that, but I have thought of situations as far as, like, if I found out that she was being abused or something like that, would I have a reaction? Obviously, yeah. You know what I mean? So, no, I wouldn't do that. But also, there's other situations and stories and concerns that you think about, because as much as she's not mine, she always will be, So there's always that motherly, oh my gosh, or different things, or like how we choose to dress our children, how we choose to teach our cultures to our children, how we choose to promote certain things or dispromote certain things that we see differently. So those are reasons why I do choose to be more reserved and do choose to just respect the way that they do things, and I don't make a bunch of comments on posts, and I don't pictures back and forth and all that. That's just not something that I do. And full transparencies, birthdays and Christmas, I'm not one of those parents who's like, all like, oh yeah, let's all, and it's not because I wouldn't love it. I would love it, but being that we do move around a lot, that doesn't happen as much. And I also don't want to make a fake persona or try to impose or have anyone feel like they have to feel obligated to. I made choices that I'm okay with, and I love that things are working as wonderfully and as cohesive and as balanced as they are, and that we can have these communications and that we can, share our story with everybody. But I did think that it was highly important to also have this moment to talk to you guys about the opposite side of those emotions as well, because yeah, of course you think things, and as human beings, our mind have dark void thoughts. Of course we think the craziest of things, but then I think how blessed and amazing this situation is, and how incredibly blessed I was to be able to find such a couple who was willing to go through everything to be in this position that they're in now, and who are teaching her such great things and allowing her to flourish, and pushing her to be her greatest version, and caring about her future and how she sees things. And I've watched videos about kids who were adopted, and they they go to the doctor and the doctor is asking for their family history, and because they're adopted, they don't know their family history. Whereas Cassie can most certainly, or Candy or Mike, text me or call me and be like, hey, what is grandpa, grandma, great grandpa, dad, history, and I can divulge that information. Not that I already haven't, but you know what I mean. If there's ever a question of anything, I it could be about hemorrhoids. Sorry for the TMI, but any questions that you or Cassie or anybody may have, ask. I am 100%. I love questions and I love openness and transparency, and I hope that with this video that it has helped other people to feel open enough to do that. Hold on. Boundaries are loving. It's so we can love each other the best way we can. You are always welcome to tell us boundaries and we will follow them. Same. I do feel like that is same. And I do appreciate that, that we can communicate, but then I always also wonder, like, I just don't want anything to feel like a chore, because you guys will always be family to me personally. And when I say family, you guys, it's not like a polygamous relationship. We're not all like, living in one house kind of a family and anything like that. We're a ever constant family that has distance and respect of boundaries, and I just do not want to portray that any other way than that. You know what I mean? Because I do want you guys to know that with our specific situation, I think it would have been a lot harder for me personally if there was, maybe being closer I think that would have been harder personally. I think, like there would be that pressure of like, oh, can I get him on the weekends? Or, oh, can I, I think that's so crazy. And I think about things like that in the future, or like if, situation pops up, like, should Cassie ever want to spend time personally by herself, or should, vice versa. And I also tell my kids, like, Kenny and Mike are an extension of love, of family. So you also have them, you know what I mean? And vice versa, and I hope that that's something that stays for the end of time, and that not like a brother and sister, but I hope that, Kenny and Mike do know that no matter what it is, like no matter if it's if you're angry about something, you want to talk about it, if you want to argue with me, if you want to have a debate, if you want to cry with me because something is emotional and you don't know who to share it with, if there's something awkward that happens and you're not sure how to bring it up, or vice versa, I'm here, and I do apologize for the moments where you do want to be more involved, and I kind of shy away sometimes because of my emotions. Just things like that. But that being said, you guys, thank you so much for being involved and for joining us on this journey. Who knows, maybe there'll be future videos updating and stuff like that. But stay blessed, never stress, with much peace, much power, much love, much light, and of course, much joy. See you guys next time. Here you go.